So what are some of the signs that someone might be considering suicide? Let's talk about it a little bit, just so you have some idea of what to look for. And then also keep in mind that, later on in the video, we're going to talk about what does it look like when teenagers are considering suicide, because it's slightly different. It's both this list that we're going to go through now, and there's some other nuances that you may need to look for as well. Okay, so as for most people, when someone is considering a suicide, they may talk about being hopeless or wanting to die. Some people are very explicit. They will say, I want to die by suicide, or I'm thinking about completing a suicide, or I'm just thinking about ending things. They may say it very straight up and, you know, to the point, but some people may just hint at it, like, oh, nothing's getting better. I just don't think it's ever going to get better. Things are, like, I just want to go away. Sometimes I just want to just not be here or something, So they might say it like that in a more roundabout way. And so just conversation regarding suicide is one of the signs, right? Withdrawing from friends, family, people that they've historically been very close with or very active with. That is a sign. Now, does everyone who withdraw from family and friends, are all of them suicidal? No. No. However, that withdrawing from friends, family, and activities and things like that, plus like conversation about feeling hopeless, that should trigger some type of red flag and say, hey, go ask about your friend, go check in on your person. Okay. Giving away their possessions, especially things that they used to have very sentimental attachment to. Like they gave away their favorite guitar. They love that guitar. Like they would never give away their guitar, and yet they're giving it away. That could indicate some suicidal thoughts. Now, does giving away their sentimental things alone indicate that they're having suicidal thoughts? No. They could be needing to raise money. They could be ending a season of their life where they kind of wanted to put old things behind them, and they're just needing to close out some chapters in their life. So they're gifting away some things. There's a lot of reasons why somebody might be giving things away. So obviously don't jump to conclusions. But if someone is giving away their possessions and also expressing or demonstrating any of these other signs, then ask a question. Ask a very direct question. If they have sudden mood swings, or a sense of calm after a period of depression, that could be like they've checked out. Like they had a depressive episode, they had a very intense emotional situation happen to them, and they could be checked out. They're like, I'm done. I'm not even gonna. They're calm in an eerie way. You know what I'm saying? Not calm like I found my peace. I'm practicing acceptance with this. Everything's going to be well. Not that. They are checked out. They're like, they've already made up their mind that they're not going to be here tomorrow, or they're not going to be here for long. So they're like, they don't care. If you see anything like that, that should be a flag, right? Engaging in any type of risky behaviors, or self-harm. Those are indications that someone maybe they don't care about their life, or they've already decided, this is over, so I'm just going to do whatever. And then self-harm as well. For those of you guys who did not watch my video on self-harm, I'm actually going to maybe link it down below in the description. But there are some people who self-harm, meaning they inflict pain on themselves, or they in some way hurt themselves, and they are doing that with the intention of completing a suicide. But there are some people who self-harm and they are not intending to complete a suicide. They really just self-harm for the purpose of feeling something or coping with some feelings. Okay, so there's a difference. I talk a little bit more about that in another video, so I'm going to link that below. But if someone is exhibiting any of these signs and then also they're engaging in risky behavior or self-harm, y'all know what to do. Ask the question, right? Ask the question, save that life. Now, if you are dealing with a teenager, if you're working with a teenager, you're parenting a teenager, you yourself are a teenager, talking to a teenage friend, whatever the case is, if you're trying to figure out, how do I know if this teenager is having or thinking about suicide? Here are some of the signs, the flags. Changes in behavior. withdrawing, mood swings, acting out. These can all actually indicate that a teenager is having suicidal thoughts. Now, the tricky thing is that if you ask anybody anywhere, they're going to say withdrawing, mood swings, and acting out are typical of all teenagers everywhere, and so that's why it's so tricky. Some of these symptoms, signs that I'm going to be sharing with you guys, they could mimic regular behavior to you. You could be like, that's normal for teenagers, or that's normal for this person. And so how would I have known? That is a very good question. How do you know? The best answer I can give you is that you want to look at all of the signs. In addition to withdrawing, mood swings, acting out, you want to listen to them. You want to see if they are talking about death, talking about suicide a lot, romanticizing it. Are they writing about suicide? Are they always wanting to read about suicide? Are they what I'm saying? Are they preoccupied with the idea of dying, or death? So those are, in addition to the regular mood swings and withdrawing and acting out, are they also having conversation that suggests that they're having suicidal thoughts? Also, are they declining in their academics or their social performance? Is that happening? Again, could be written off as just regular teen behavior, but also could indicate that that person is in crisis and are crying out for help in a non-verbal way. So when your teenager is experiencing some changes in their grades or their academics, or they are having social issues to the point where they're not thriving in their social environments, or they're not thriving in their academic environments, or they're barely surviving in those environments, this begs a conversation. Just a question, just a conversation like, hey, how are you feeling? What's going on? Tell me a little bit about what's going on. Like, oh, are you having any thoughts of suicide or anything like that? I know it's pretty common amongst teenagers sometimes, especially when they're really stressed or they have a lot of social issues, got a lot of relationship issues. Like, how are you feeling? So just check in on them. These are check-in type of conversations you and I are having right now. Of course, if they're having risky behavior or self-destructive behavior, specifically with substance abuse, self-harm, a lot of teens will sneak and use substances. Their parents will never know. People will never know, but they're sneaking to use substances for the purpose of escaping from their pain, similar to why adults use it in most cases. When you use substances to cope, you're trying to escape from the pain. You escape from issues at home, issues with parents, issues at school, issues with relationship partners, friendships, issues with identity. So they may want to escape through drugs and alcohol. So check in if you notice that your teen is utilizing substances for coping, or if you discover that they are, because you ain't even know, because they ain't tell you, and also self-harm. I used to work with a lot of teenagers who would always wear hoodies, always wear long sleeves, even in the weather where you would imagine that they would wear tank tops and show their skin. They would not. They would cover their skin up because they had cut marks. They had cut lines. Okay. They might have it on an inner thigh or something like that. So they would always cover those areas up, and it would look odd because they would wear things that were not seasonally appropriate. So pay attention to when your teen, and I know the joke around the internet is like, these teens out here in these hoodies in 90-degree weather. Yeah, I mean, on the one hand, that's just weird, right? That's just weird teen behavior, and we should just let them be free. And on the other hand, at some point, you need to be able to see your teen's entire body. Not their private areas, but when's the last time you've seen their arms, their thigh, their, what I'm saying, like places where they might cut? When's the last time you've put your eyes on them and just saw what their skin looks like? Have they been cutting? Have they been putting cigarette butts out on them? Have they been scratching? Picking their skin? This is something that, an attentive parent, an attentive friend, an attentive professional should be monitoring, because a lot of teens will hide the self-interest behavior. So keep that in mind as well. Giving away their possessions is also common for teens, as a sign of they may be considering suicide. Changes in your appearance, so neglecting their hygiene, dressing in dark, mourning kind of clothing. Some people say gothic. Now, granted, I love me some good goth outfits, right? But there's a difference between gothic and dark, grieving kind of dress. It's a thin line, though. I'm not gonna say that. This line is very thin. because God sometimes looks very dark and grieving, but there's a different energy around it. And then dressing this way, plus coupled with some of these other indications, will help you figure it out. If they have unexplained aches like stomach aches, headaches, fatigue without any clear medical explanation, this can indicate some emotional distress, some depression, which then could be leading them to want to complete a suicide. So follow the the trail there when you notice something that's off about your teen. um if your teen is declining in like their self-worth, or they're feeling extremely guilty about things, don't just think that that's just going to pass. Teens or adults don't always have the skills to navigate low self-esteem, low self-worth, guilt, and so they could spiral. What could be a regular I feel bad about myself, or I shouldn't have did that. I feel terrible about myself, or I don't really like myself. That regular conversation can spiral into very dark thoughts and eventually lead somebody to say, "I just don't want to be here anymore. What's the point?" You know. So pay attention to the conversation of your teens. Um, if they're preoccupied with suicide, of course, pay attention. If they have changes in their sleep and appetite, like insomnia or excessive sleeping or nightmares, this could indicate some type of depression or some type of emotional imbalance. Changes in their eating habits. This could be loss of appetite. This could be overeating. Um, of course, binging and purging and all the things like could indicate some levels of depression or emotional imbalance or hopelessness as well. Um, and maybe some sudden changes in like their positive mood or behavior after depression. Like if they are very depressed, very sad, very down to the point where you're scared for them, and then they immediately perk up afterwards, almost as if like they're just relieved that like they're not even gonna be here no more. All these problems I was sad about yesterday, not gonna be problems tomorrow because I'm not gonna be here. Like that kind of energy. Pay attention to that. Okay, pay attention to that. And so those are some signs that your teen or your adult person in crisis might be considering a suicide. And so if you notice any of these signs, of course, you always want to ask them a direct question as their natural or professional supporter. You could be a natural supporter, a family or friend, or you could be a professional supporter, a teacher, a coach, whomever. You always want to ask them, reach out to them, check in with them, ask them the direct question of whether they're having suicidal thoughts. Just confirm your suspicions. And worst case scenario, they'll say, "No, I'm not having that. You're silly," or something like that. And great, even better, you know, even better, because either way, you want to be better safe than sorry to ask, right? If they do indicate that they are having suicidal thoughts, you immediately want to connect them to a professional. You can connect them to the National Crisis Hotline, 988. They can dial 988 or they can text. Or you can ask them to connect to their therapist or their counselor. You can connect them to any type of religious or faith-based professional who is equipped to help them with this. But you want to help them with someone who is trained and equipped to support them through this specific type of situation. And you just want to make sure that they're safe. You want to ensure that their environment is safe and that they are being safe. So if your teenager or your person in crisis says, "Oh, I just want to, take all these pills," then immediately you want to say, "Well, let's get these pills gathered up. I'm going to take the pills for you, or I'm going to put it in a lockbox. I'll keep the key. You let me know when you need them." And you just want to keep their environment safe from whatever method they were thinking about using. If they have a firearm, you immediately want to separate them from their firearm if they are willing to do that. Hopefully they are, for their safety. You want to make sure that they don't have the firearm just at their house sitting around, so that in the wee hours of the night when their suicidal thoughts have worsened, they decide, "I'm just going to do it now." You don't know. You want to keep the environment as safe as possible to the point where they have to actually figure out how to do it. And hopefully in them figuring it out, they don't accomplish it because they like, "I can't even figure out how to do it because I don't have my gun. I don't have my meds. I don't have any sharp objects around." Like they took all the things. And so help them keep their environment safe in that regard. Okay. Alrighty, hopefully this is helpful. Again, these conversations are not easy conversations, but they get easier the more you practice them and the more equipped you feel to have these conversations. So definitely, hopefully these videos help. Ask the questions, save a life. Here's hoping. All right, bye.